On their anniversary, they threw my gift in the trash. That sound, the crack of glass against the metal bin, didn't just break something I made. It told me exactly where I stood in my own son's life. My name is Tracy Wilson. I'm 68, and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm not rich, not famous, but I've lived long enough to know what love looks like, and what it doesn't. Yesterday was my son Floyd's 5th wedding anniversary. I'd spent 2 months making him and his wife, Nicole, a mosaic lamp for their new home in Dallas. Every small tile of colored glass had come from somewhere special, pieces from their old wedding decorations, bits from flea markets, a few chips from the blue vase that used to sit in their first apartment. I wanted it to be more than just a lamp. I wanted it to hold memories. When I arrived, Nicole greeted me like a guest she hadn't planned for. Floyd hugged me, distracted, phone still in his hand. Their kitchen smelled of expensive candles and takeout sushi, the kind that comes in black boxes with gold lettering. I handed the wrapped box to Floyd. "Happy anniversary," I said. "I made something for you too." Nicole looked at the box, raised an eyebrow. "You made it?" Before I could answer, Floyd smiled politely. "Mom's been doing those craft projects again." I sat down at their kitchen island while they unwrapped the paper. The lamp came out, and for a moment, I hoped they'd see what I saw, the glow of their story inside it. The base was made from reclaimed oak. The glass glimmered in soft amber and blue tones. When light hit it, it shimmered like a small sunset. Nicole turned it around, expression unreadable. "What is it supposed to be?" she asked flatly. "A lamp," I said quietly. "For your living room. I thought it'd go with the new rug." She forced a small laugh. "Oh, I thought you'd bring something practical. We really don't have room for handmade stuff." Floyd said nothing. He just rubbed his neck and mumbled, "Yeah, the house is kind of full, Mom." I felt my throat tighten. "It doesn't have to stay here," I said softly. "I just wanted you both to have something I made with my hands. Something personal." Nicole's voice turned sharp, like she was swatting away a fly. "Tracy, we appreciate it, but honestly, we don't need old-fashioned crafts cluttering up the space. It's just not our style." Before I could respond, she stood up, picked up the lamp, my lamp, and carried it to the kitchen trash can. The lid clanked open. She dropped it in. The glass hit the metal with a heavy thud, followed by the sound of her hands brushing together like she was dusting off flour. I froze. My eyes caught the faint reflection of colored glass under the lid. Floyd avoided my gaze. "Mom, don't take it personally. Nicole's really particular about decor." "I can see that," I said quietly. Nicole was already wiping down the counter, as if cleaning away the last trace of my visit. "Do you want coffee before you go?" I shook my head. I'd brought a small card too, one I'd written the night before. I'd poured my heart into it. How proud I was of their marriage. How happy I was to see them building a life together. But I kept it in my purse. I didn't hand it over. Instead, I just said, "Happy anniversary," and walked toward the door. "Drive safe, Mom," Floyd said, not looking up from his phone. When I reached my car, I sat for a while, staring at my hands. They were callous from years of work, real work. I used to be an assistant in an architecture firm. Those hands helped shape models that turned into buildings. Now, they made smaller things, softer things, because I liked creating light. But in that moment, those hands felt useless. Still, I couldn't leave the lamp there. Something in me wouldn't allow it. I went back, quiet as a shadow, while they were in the living room scrolling on their phones. I lifted the trash can lid. There it was, my lamp lying on top of coffee filters and takeout wrappers. I took it out gently. A small crack had formed along one side of the glass, like a scar. I wrapped it in a towel from my car and set it on the passenger seat. The city lights reflected off the broken tiles as I drove home. I didn't cry. I just drove in silence. That sound of glass hitting metal replayed in my head the whole way home. It didn't break my heart. It confirmed what I already knew. To Floyd and Nicole, I wasn't a mother anymore. I was background noise. That night, I placed the lamp on my kitchen table and turned on the light inside. The crack made a faint shadow across the glow, almost beautiful in its imperfection. I thought about fixing it the next day, not because they deserved it, but because the lamp did. I stayed up late that night, staring at the lamp's light dancing against my walls. It wasn't bright, but it was warm. It reminded me of something my late husband, Roger, used to say when we'd sit under our old porch light. Light never wastes itself. Trace. Even when nobody looks at it, it still shines. And right then, I decided they might have thrown it away, but I wasn't done with that lamp. Not yet. The next morning, I pulled out my small box of glass tiles, glue, and pliers. I brewed my coffee, tied my hair back, and began to repair what they called junk. Because maybe, just maybe, that lamp story wasn't over yet. The next morning, I woke up early. The house was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the sound of birds outside my window. The lamp sat on the kitchen table where I'd left it the night before, cracked, but still glowing faintly. I stood there for a long minute with my coffee in hand, looking at it. It was strange. Something that had been thrown away still had enough light left in it to warm the room. I didn't make that lamp for money or praise. I made it because I wanted Floyd and Nicole to have something real, something that came from my hands, not from a catalog or a showroom. The lamp started as an idea on a warm spring afternoon. I'd been walking through South Congress in Austin, just browsing, when I passed a small art supply shop that had a bin of broken glass pieces for sale. Blue, amber, white, green, each little shard sparkled differently under the sun. I bought a small box for $10, not knowing exactly what I'd do with it yet. Later that night, I pulled out a sketch pad. I drew a design shaped like the old chandelier that used to hang in the church where Floyd got married. I still remembered how Nicole had loved that chandelier. She took dozens of pictures under it. I thought if I could make something that carried that same kind of light, it would remind them of the joy from that day. My late husband, Roger, would have known how to help. He used to say, "A good light makes people kinder." He'd been an electrician for 30 years, the kind who always had wire cutters in his pocket and saw beauty in fixtures most people ignored. He's the one who taught me how to solder wires, how to make something not just pretty but functional. After he passed, working with light became my therapy. I made small lamps, sun catchers, and mosaic frames. It kept my hands busy and my mind steady. Each piece felt like a way of keeping Roger close. So when Floyd's anniversary came around, it felt natural to make something for them. I thought it would mean more coming from me than something off their registry. Every evening, after dinner, I worked on that lamp. I'd sit at the little folding table by my window, sorting through colored glass, cutting each piece by hand, gluing them into a pattern that reminded me of water and sky. I used gold grout, so when the light came through, it looked like sunlight breaking through clouds. It wasn't easy. My hands cramped, and sometimes the glass cut my fingertips, but it was worth it. I imagined them unwrapping it together, smiling, maybe saying something like, "Mom, you made this?" I imagined Nicole setting it on their entryway table, maybe turning it on in the evenings. I thought about how it would look glowing behind them when they had friends over. I thought it would make their house feel like home. But now that I'd seen it lying in their trash, all those thoughts felt foolish. Still, as I looked at it on my table that morning, I couldn't hate it. The glass shimmered, even with the crack. I ran my fingers over the base. It had a small dent where it hit the trash can. The damage wasn't bad. The light inside still worked. So I took out my cleaning cloths and tools. I sat down, tied on my old apron, and started to repair it. I worked slowly, like I used to when Roger was alive. My movements were careful, not rushed. I wasn't fixing it to prove anything. I was fixing it because I didn't want to see something good go to waste. As I worked, I thought about Floyd. When he was a boy, he used to help Roger in the garage. He was always curious, asking questions about how things worked. I used to think he'd grow up to build things too, but somewhere along the way, his interest changed. After college, he went into tech consulting and started talking more about clients, profit margins, and houses in gated neighborhoods. Nicole came into his life around that time. Pretty polished, always talking about brand names, and aesthetic. She ran a lifestyle blog where everything had to match: white countertops, neutral colors, perfect lighting. I guess I should have known back then that my handmade things wouldn't fit into their kind of home. I finished reattaching the broken tile and smoothed the grout. The lamp looked whole again, but different. The crack had shifted one of the patterns slightly. When I turned it on, a faint shadow curved across the light, almost like a river running through it. I smiled a little. Imperfect, but beautiful in its own way. That night, I sat with my neighbor Victor on the porch. He's a retired carpenter who's lived down the street from me for years. I told him what happened at Floyd's house. He shook his head slowly. That's tough, Tracy. People don't always understand what goes into something handmade. They see the outside, not the hours behind it. I nodded. I don't want to be angry. I just wish they'd looked before they threw it away. Victor looked at the lamp through my kitchen window. That's a fine piece of work. You know, there's a small gallery over on 5th Street that shows local artisans. You should take it there. I laughed softly. Who'd want a lamp made by an old lady in her kitchen? He smiled. Maybe someone who still knows how to see. Later, when I went back inside, those words stuck with me. Maybe there was still someone out there who could see it for what it was. I turned the lamp off, set it on my windowsill, and watched how it caught the last bit of evening light. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I wasn't done with it. Not because I wanted to prove Floyd and Nicole wrong, because fixing it had made me feel steady again, like myself. It was a lamp no one wanted, but for the first time in a long while, it made me feel like what I made still mattered. And maybe that was reason enough to keep it glowing. A few days after Victor mentioned that gallery, I kept thinking about it. Every time I passed the lamp in my kitchen, I heard his words again, someone who still knows how to see. It was early June, and Austin was already heating up by 9 in the morning. I had errands to run, groceries, the pharmacy, but somehow I ended up driving toward 5th Street instead. I told myself I was just looking, not doing anything crazy. The place was easy to miss. A small brick building tucked between a coffee shop and a tailor store. The sign read Reed and Company. Artisans. The front window displayed hand-thrown pottery, wood carvings, and some woven baskets. It wasn't fancy. It looked warm, real. I parked across the street and sat in the car for a few minutes. My hands rested on the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to turn back home. What business did I have walking into an art gallery? I was just an old woman with glue-stained hands and a repaired lamp sitting on the passenger seat. But then I thought about that night at Floyd's house. The sound of glass hitting the trash. I'd already faced worse than a polite rejection. So I took a deep breath, picked up the lamp, and walked in. Inside smelled faintly of sawdust and coffee. A woman stood behind the counter, sorting through frames. She looked up as soon as the doorbell chimed. "Good morning," she said, smiling. "I'm Joanna Reed. What can I do for you?" Her voice was calm, friendly but confident, the kind of person who'd seen a lot of work cross her desk. I cleared my throat. My name's Tracy Wilson. My neighbor told me you sometimes show local handmade pieces. She nodded, setting down the frame. I do. Are you an artist? The word caught me off guard. I wouldn't call myself that. I just make things. Lamps mostly. May I see one? She asked. I hesitated. It's not perfect. Got a little damage. That's all right, she said. Most beautiful things do. That made me smile. I unwrapped the towel around the lamp and placed it on the counter. Joanna leaned in close. For a while, she didn't say a word. She adjusted her glasses and traced the gold lines between the glass pieces with her fingertip. Then she turned on the switch. The warm amber light filled the room. Her expression changed, soft but intent. She studied every inch of it. I could hear the hum of the lights above us. Nothing else. Finally, she looked up. You didn't make a lamp, Mrs. Wilson, she said quietly. You made a story that lights up. I blinked. A story? She nodded. Every piece of glass looks like it came from somewhere that mattered. It's not just art, it's memory. I didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever described my work like that before. Joanna asked if I'd made others like it. A few, I said, mostly for myself or for family. This one was supposed to be a gift. She didn't ask what happened, but I could tell she understood without words. I'm putting together a small summer exhibit, she said. It's called Homegrown Hands. It's all about local makers, people who still build things from the heart. Would you let me display this piece in the front window? I blinked again, unsure I'd heard her right. You really want to put this in your window? Yes, I do, she said simply. It'll draw people in. It feels honest. I laughed a little, more from surprise than anything. Well, I don't know about honest, but it's repaired. I broke it once. Joanna smiled. That makes it better. People connect to things that have been fixed. It reminds them that beauty doesn't stop at a crack. She reached for a clipboard and wrote something down. I'll handle insurance while it's here. We'll put your name and a short description next to it. I'll take care of lighting and display. My mind was spinning. I'm not sure it belongs here. Everything else looks professional. Joanna looked straight at me. Tracy, professional doesn't mean perfect. It means made with purpose. And I see plenty of that right here. Something in her tone made me believe her. We filled out a few simple forms. Name, contact number, price range if it's sold. I didn't even know what to write. I told her she could decide. She said, let's start at $5,000. It's fair for the craftsmanship. I nearly dropped my pen. $5,000 for one lamp. She smiled. Good work costs time, and time has value. Don't undersell yourself. I couldn't argue with that. We finished the paperwork, and she said she'd photograph it properly for the display. As I walked back to my car, my hands were shaking. I hadn't expected anything to come from this. I just wanted to get out of the house, to feel like I'd done something with what they threw away. Driving home, I kept glancing at the empty seat beside me where the lamp had been. It felt strange, like leaving a piece of myself behind. That evening, I called Victor and told him what happened. He let out a low whistle. See, didn't I tell you? Sometimes the world just needs a second look. I laughed softly. I still can't believe she wants to show it. Believe it, he said. You didn't just fix a lamp, Tracy. You fixed your courage. That night, I sat on the porch as the sky turned pink. For the first time in a long while, I felt something I hadn't felt since Roger died. Hope. Not the loud kind, but quiet, steady hope that comes from knowing you're still useful. I didn't know if the lamp would sell or if anyone would even notice it, but that didn't matter yet. What mattered was that it was finally somewhere it could be seen by eyes that wanted to see. When I went to bed, I caught myself smiling. Maybe light really does find its way, no matter how dark things look at first. A week after I left the lamp at the gallery, I got a call from Joanna. I was in the garden trimming my rosemary when the phone buzzed in my pocket. Her voice was warm and steady, but there was a hint of excitement. "Tracy, I wanted to let you know your lamp's in the window," she said. "We set it up with warm lighting, so it glows even in daylight. People have been stopping to look." My first reaction was disbelief. Stopping to look at my lamp. She chuckled. "Yes, ma'am. I've already had 2 people ask if it's for sale." I stood there with dirt on my hands, not sure what to say. The same lamp that had been thrown in the trash 2 weeks ago was now sitting in a window catching people's eyes. Joanna continued. One woman in particular was very interested. She asked about the artist. I told her your story, how you used reclaimed glass, how it was repaired, how it represented second chances. She said it made her think of her mother. That last part caught me off guard. My throat felt tight. "What did you tell her about the price?" I told her it's listed at $5,000. She didn't blink. She said she'd call me back this afternoon after talking to her husband. I thanked her and hung up. Then I just stood there in the yard staring at the phone. The sunlight hit the wind chime by my porch, scattering bits of reflection around the garden. I couldn't help but smile. I didn't expect much to come from it, but the idea that someone had seen it and cared was enough. For the first time in months, I felt useful again. 2 days later, Joanna called again. "Tracy, you sitting down?" I laughed nervously. "Should I be? There's a buyer. A woman named Emily Lopez from Dallas. She's a collector of handcrafted lighting pieces. She saw the lamp yesterday and came back this morning to buy it. She offered $6,000. I told her I'd need to confirm with you. My knees nearly gave out. 6,000? Are you serious?" "I am," Joanna said. She said something about how it reminded her of her late mother's kitchen, said it felt alive. She even asked if you'd be open to doing a custom piece in the future. I had to sit down. My heart was racing, but not from greed, just pure gratitude. The lamp that had been called junk was now going to light someone else's home. "Go ahead and sell it," I said softly. "If it'll make her happy, it's where it belongs." After I hung up, I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window. I thought about Roger and how proud he would have been. I could almost hear him say, "See, Trace, real work always finds real eyes." A week after the sale, Joanna sent me a photo of the window display with a little card next to the empty stand. "Sold. Artist, Tracy Wilson, Austin, Texas." I saved that photo on my phone. I didn't plan on telling Floyd or Nicole. There was no reason to. I'd made peace with it. But life has a way of making sure the truth gets found. Nicole posted a new home photo on her social media, something about updating their living room aesthetic. I don't follow her account, but one of my old friends does. She sent me a message saying, "Tracy, isn't that your name on the tag in the background of a Dallas gallery post?" Nicole's followers are talking about it. Curious, I looked it up. Sure enough, someone had tagged the gallery in a comment. That lamp in Reed & Company's window was made by at Tracy Wilson Designs. Incredible work. Nicole's followers were connecting the dots faster than I could read them. Some of them even commented things like, "Didn't your Emile make one like that?" And "Looks just like the lamp from your old post last year." By evening, my phone started buzzing. 8 missed calls from Floyd, 3 from Nicole. Then the text messages came. "Floyd, Mom, did you sell that lamp you made for us?" "Nicole, why is your name on that gallery post? Is that the same piece we had?" "Floyd, please call me. We need to talk." I stared at the screen for a while. I could have ignored it, but I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of thinking I was hiding anything. So I typed back one line. It found a home where light's appreciated. Then I set my phone down and went back to watering my plants. An hour later, Floyd called again. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. Mom, I just want to understand. Can you call me back? I didn't. Instead, I sat on the porch that night, looking out at the quiet street. The air smelled like honeysuckle and summer heat. The same moonlight that used to fall through the lamp now spilled across my yard. It wasn't about revenge or money. It was about being seen again, about knowing that what I created with care had finally landed somewhere it was wanted. A few days later, Joanna sent the check. After her commission, I received a little over $3,000. I deposited it the next morning, then treated myself to lunch at a cafe downtown. It wasn't about spending, it was about celebrating quietly in my own way. While I was there, I got another message, this time from Joanna. Emily wants to meet you. She said she'd love to hear the story behind the lamp firsthand. I smiled to myself. Maybe I would meet her. Maybe I'd tell her how that lamp started with love, broke under disappointment, and still found a way to shine. I realized something that day. Sometimes the people closest to us can't see our worth until strangers point it out. But by then, it's no longer for them to claim. That evening, I checked my phone again. Another text from Floyd. Mom, Nicole feels awful. Can we talk soon? I didn't answer right away. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired of explaining the same lesson to people who hadn't wanted to learn it. The truth was simple. What they threw away didn't belong in their trash to begin with. The lamp wasn't just glass and wire. It was a piece of me. And now, that piece was lighting up someone else's home, exactly where it was meant to be. By Saturday morning, the calls turned into a visit. I was wiping down my kitchen counter when I saw a black SUV pull up in front of my house. Floyd stepped out first, sunglasses on, jaw tight. Nicole followed in a cream sweater and heels that didn't match Austin's sidewalks. They didn't text. They didn't ask. They just came. I opened the door before they could knock. Hi, Mom, Floyd said, voice stiff. Can we come in? I stepped aside. Shoes at the mat, please. They did. Nicole's smile was tight, the kind you wear for pictures. Tracy, you look great, she said. We've been meaning to visit. I pointed to the table. Sit. They sat. I poured water for everyone and took the seat across from them. No hugs. No small talk. Floyd started. We saw the gallery post. We saw the sold tag. We just want to understand what happened. You threw it away, I said, calm. I brought it home. That's what happened. Nicole leaned forward, palms open like a TV host. I think there was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean it the way it looked. The house was cluttered. I was overwhelmed. It wasn't personal. It was personal, I said. You threw a gift into a trash can while I stood 3 feet away. That is personal. She flinched, then recovered. Okay, yes, it was rude. I said that to Floyd, but it was an anniversary gift for us. So she glanced at him. We assumed we'd at least talk about the sale. Floyd nodded. Right. If it was technically our gift, then the money is shared. I folded my hands. No raised voice. No shaking. You didn't want the gift. You discarded it. Once you put it in the trash, it wasn't yours anymore. I took it back. I repaired it. I delivered it. I signed consignment forms. It sold. Nicole's smile vanished. You set a price without telling us. I set a boundary you taught me to set. I said, you made it clear what my work meant to you. I believed you. Floyd rubbed his temple. Mom, this isn't about meaning. It's about fairness. Fairness, I repeated. Let's talk about that word. I stood, walked to the cabinet, and took out a small envelope. I slid it across the table. Inside was a copy of the consignment agreement and the receipt Joanna had sent me after the sale. Paper, I said, since feelings are messy. They read, Nicole's mouth tightened at the number. 6,000. Joanna handled the display, I said. She set the price based on time, materials, and demand. She knows her buyers. I didn't argue with her. Floyd set the papers down. You could have told me. You could have looked before you let her throw it away, I said, still calm. You had time. You had a choice. You stayed quiet. He had no answer to that. Nicole's voice went cool. People are talking online. It looks like we used you. You didn't use me, I said. You dismissed me. Different problem. Silence. Nicole tried a new angle. I apologized in my text. You ignored it. I read it. I said, you apologized because strangers noticed the lamp, not because you realized what you'd done. Her eyes flashed. That's not fair. Maybe, I said, but it's accurate. She pushed her chair back a few inches, then pulled it forward again. Look, can we just move past the drama? If we split the profit, we can put it towards something nice for the house. Maybe a new console. It would be a gesture. I shook my head. I'm not funding your furniture. I used the money already. I took care of my bills and set aside the rest for more materials. I have orders to fulfill. Nicole blinked. Orders? People like the lamp, I said. Some want something similar. Not the same. Nothing is the same, but in the same style. I'll be busy for a while. That landed. Nicole went still. Floyd looked at the floor. He spoke quietly. Mom, are we the bad guys here? I don't need bad guys. I said, I need respect. I won't force you to give it. I will notice when it's missing. Nicole crossed her arms. You're punishing us. I'm protecting myself. I said, there's a difference. She stood. I'm done being talked to like this. I kept my seat. You came to my house, Nicole. You can leave when you're ready. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door, heels loud on the hardwood. At the entry, she turned. You're making a big deal out of a lamp. I looked her in the eye. No, I'm making an honest deal out of how you treated me. She stepped outside, slammed the door behind her. Floyd stayed seated, shoulders slumped. He looked older than his years. I messed up, he said. You froze, I said. You watched it happen. That hurt more than the slam of the lid. He nodded. I don't know why I didn't say anything. You wanted peace in your kitchen, I said, and you traded your mother for it. He winced. That's rough. It's true, I said gently, and I'm not tallying points. I'm telling you what happened in plain words, so we don't pretend later. He swallowed hard. Is there any way to fix this? Yes, I said, but not with money, with behavior. He waited. Next time someone gives you something made with care, pause, I said. Look at it. Ask a question. Even if it's not your style, say, thank you for making this for us. That sentence costs you nothing and changes everything. He nodded slowly. You're right. I know, I said, and for the first time, I let a small smile show. He leaned forward. I'm sorry, Mom. I accept that. I said, I'm not ready for brunch next weekend, but I accept it. He nodded again, eyes wet. I'll talk to Nicole. That's your marriage? I said. I'm not in it, but I won't stand in rooms where I am easy to throw away. He stood and slipped on his shoes. At the door, he turned back. If you ever make another lamp, would you let me buy one? Not as a gift, as a customer. That would be fair, I said. When I have time, I'll let you know. He smiled a little. Thank you. Outside, Nicole sat in the SUV, arms tight across her chest, staring straight ahead. Floyd opened the passenger door, paused, and called back, Love you, Mom. I love you too, I said. Drive safe. They pulled away. The house went quiet again. I poured the remaining water into a plant by the window and stood there for a minute, letting my heartbeat settle. My phone vibrated on the counter. A new message from Joanna. Joanna, Emily adored meeting you by phone. She wants a second piece for a friend. Would you consider a pair? Same palette, slightly smaller? I typed back. Me, yes. Give me a few weeks. Tell her thank you. I set the phone down and looked at my workbench in the corner. It was a simple setup: lamp bases, glass bins, glue, a small soldering iron, safety glasses. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I tied on my apron and sat. I cut a strip of blue glass and held it up to the light, then placed it next to a piece of soft white. They fit. I glued them down. The doorbell rang. I checked the window. Victor, holding a paper bag. I let him in. What's in the bag? Collages, he said. Fuel for the famous lamp lady. I laughed. I don't know about famous. He nodded toward the empty driveway. They came. Huh. They did. I said. How'd it go? I kept my voice. I said, that was enough. He smiled. Good. You working now? I am. I said, orders to fill. Well, he said, placing the bag on the counter. Then Austin's about to get a little brighter. After he left, I ate one colic and got back to work. The steady cut and place rhythm cleared my head like a good walk. Late afternoon, my phone buzzed again. A short text from Floyd. Floyd, thank you for being honest. I heard you. I stared at the words a long time. Then I put the phone face down and returned to the glass. Keeping dignity isn't loud. It's steady. It's knowing what your hands are worth and who you are when the room gets quiet. They came to claim a piece of something they had thrown away. I didn't give it back. Not out of spite. Out of sense. Some lessons arrive with a soft lamp glow through a gallery window. Some arrive at your kitchen table, in ordinary daylight, with water glasses sweating on old wood. Either way, light tells the truth, and I plan to keep making it. 2 weeks after Floyd and Nicole left my house, I got a call from Joanna again. Her voice had that same mix of calm and excitement she'd had when the lamp first sold. Tracy, she said, you might want to sit down before I tell you this. I smiled. That line's starting to sound familiar. She laughed. A reporter from the Austin Chronicle called this morning. Someone from Emily's art circle mentioned your lamp, and now they want to do a feature. The headline's already drafted. Austin Grandma's discarded lamp sells for $6,000. I couldn't help but laugh. Well, that'll get people's attention. It will, she said. They want to photograph your workspace. Do you mind? My workspace. I looked around at my small dining table covered with glass and glue bottles. If they can handle a mess, they're welcome. That article came out 3 days later. I didn't expect much from it, but it spread faster than I imagined. People started sending emails to the gallery asking if I had more lamps for sale. Some just wanted to leave kind words, messages from people who said they had mothers or grandmothers who made things by hand too, and that the story reminded them of those women. It felt strange being called an artist. For most of my life, I was just someone who made things because it felt right. Now, my name was in print, and suddenly my quiet craft had an audience. Joanna stopped by the following week with a small box in her hands. These are your next orders, she said, setting it down on my table. Inside were 4 slips of paper with names and deposits attached. People want pieces inspired by your lamp. Different colors, different stories, but your style. I stared at the forms, then back at her. I don't even have space for all this. She looked toward my garage. Then we'll make some. That weekend, Joanna and Victor helped me clear it out. We moved old boxes, swept up dust, and pulled Roger's old workbench out from under a tarp. I hadn't touched it since he died. His hammer still hung on the side, his handwriting still on a wooden beam. Don't rush the process. Standing there, I felt like he was right beside me again. Joanna brought over some shelving units and a small table lamp to test lighting on new designs. "You have a real business here," she said. "All you need is a proper setup." By the time we finished, the garage didn't look like storage anymore. It looked like a workshop. That night, I sat at the bench with one of Roger's old screwdrivers in my hand. I turned on the small lamp and started cutting glass. The steady rhythm filled the room, just like it used to when he worked late, and I'd bring him coffee. I hadn't realized how much I missed that sound. Over the next few weeks, I made 3 new lamps. Each one had a story. One was for a woman who wanted something in memory of her mother's kitchen. Another was for a retired teacher who'd lost her home in a storm and wanted a piece that reminded her of hope. Each lamp had its own colors, its own light. I found peace in shaping them. Emily reached out through Joanna not long after. She wanted to meet in person and talk about joining a group she ran, Hands That Endure, a collective that promoted senior women artists across Texas. They held exhibits and workshops, often pairing older creators with young apprentices. When we met for lunch, Emily was warm and grounded. "Tracy, your story touched a lot of people," she said, "not just because of the sale, but because you represent something important. People forget that Handmade isn't outdated. It's soul work. We'd love to have you join the collective." I hesitated. I've never done anything formal like that. She smiled. "You already have. You just didn't call it that." Joining that group opened new doors. They helped me set up an online page, something simple where people could see my lamps and request custom designs. They even invited me to speak at a small event in Dallas about rediscovering creativity later in life. Standing there in front of a small crowd, I shared how the lamp that started everything had once been in a trash can. People nodded, some even teared up. It wasn't about pity, it was about recognition. Every woman in that room had a story of being overlooked. By the time summer ended, I had 7 completed pieces and a waiting list for more. The garage stayed busy, but in a good way. I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it because it made me feel alive again. One afternoon, while labeling a shipment, I paused and looked at the handwriting on the tag. Tracy Wilson Designs, Austin, Texas. For a moment, I couldn't believe it was real. I thought about the day Nicole threw that lamp away, how small I'd felt standing there, and how that same piece had rebuilt an entire part of my life. The next day, I wrote Floyd and Nicole a short note. Not angry, not cold, just honest. "Dear Floyd and Nicole, I hope you're both well. I wanted to thank you for the lesson you didn't mean to give me. When something is thrown away, it doesn't lose its worth. Sometimes it just needs the right hands to remind it. I'm doing well and keeping busy. I wish you both the same. Love, Mom." I slipped it in the mail and never mentioned the gallery, the article, or the new orders. I didn't need to. The note wasn't about rubbing it in. It was about closing the wound. That night, Victor came over for dinner. He looked around the garage workshop and said, "You've built yourself a whole new chapter here." I smiled. I guess the lamp really did start something. He laughed. Who would have thought Trash Day would turn into headlines? We both laughed, but after he left, I sat quietly for a while. The house wasn't as empty anymore. There was color again, warmth again. I realized I wasn't invisible. I had simply stopped shining for people who didn't look. Now, my light had found a better place. Not just in Emily's home or the new lamps waiting to be boxed, but right here in the space I'd rebuilt for myself. I looked at Roger's hammer hanging by the workbench and whispered, "You were right, love. Good light makes people kinder, especially the one holding it." The lamp had started as a gift. It became a lesson. And now it was a beginning. 6 months passed before Floyd called again. His voice was steadier this time, almost humble. "Mom," he said, "Nicole and I would like to have dinner with you." Just the three of us. No drama. I promise. I hesitated. What's the occasion? Nothing big, he said. I want to make things right. I thought about it for a day before agreeing. Not because I was waiting for an apology. I'd already made peace with everything, but because I wanted to end things on better terms. Carrying resentment only makes you tired, and I'd already wasted enough energy on that. We decided to meet halfway between Austin and Dallas at a little restaurant off I-35 that Floyd used to love when he was a kid. It wasn't fancy, just a family place with wooden booths and warm light. When I arrived, they were already seated by the window. Nicole stood when she saw me. "Tracy, you look wonderful." She sounded rehearsed, but at least she was trying. Floyd looked nervous, fidgeting with his napkin. I smiled politely. "Thank you, Nicole. You both look well." We ordered our meals. Small talk filled the first few minutes. The weather, traffic, the new toll road project outside Dallas. It was awkward but civil. Then Floyd cleared his throat. "Mom, I read that article about you in Southern Makers. It was impressive. I didn't even know you were still doing interviews." I blinked. I didn't know it would make print until Joanna sent me a copy. Nicole reached into her purse and pulled out the magazine. We actually brought it. She slid it across the table. There it was, my face, smiling awkwardly beside one of my new lamps. The headline read, "Tracy Wilson, turning broken pieces into light." I traced the photo with my finger. The design in the background was familiar, similar to the one they'd thrown away, only softer in color, a pale blue and gold mix. Nicole said, "We saw it at the bookstore last week." Floyd pointed it out. "It's really something, Tracy." There was a genuine note in her voice, maybe the first I'd ever heard from her. I nodded. "Thank you." Floyd leaned forward. "Mom, I want to say I'm sorry again. Not the kind of sorry people say, just to feel better. The real kind. I've thought about that day a lot. I should have stopped her. I should have stood up for you." I watched his face carefully. He wasn't making excuses this time. "I believe you," I said, "and I accept your apology." He exhaled, relief in his shoulders. Nicole spoke softly. "I've wanted to reach out too, but I didn't know how. I was embarrassed. I thought you'd never forgive me." "I did forgive you," I said. "I just didn't trust you anymore. There's a difference." She looked down, eyes glossy. "That's fair." The waiter brought our plates, grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, and a bowl of green beans that tasted just like the ones I used to make when Floyd was little. The simple food made the air around us less tense. Floyd looked around the restaurant and smiled faintly. "Feels like home in here." "It does," I said. "Nothing fancy, but everything's real." We ate in silence for a bit. Then Nicole spoke again. "I've been following your page online. Those lamps you make now, they're beautiful. We didn't see it before, but I get it now. There's warmth in your work. It's not about things, it's about feeling." I appreciated the words, but I didn't want to make her uncomfortable by digging into the past. "Sometimes it takes distance to see things clearly," I said. "We all learn at our own speed." Floyd nodded. I told Nicole I want to buy one for our house. Not as a makeup gift, just because I want it there. I smiled. "That's kind, but I can't make replicas of the original. Each one has its own story. If I make you one, it'll be yours, not a replacement." "That's fair," he said. "Whenever you're ready." For a moment, the table felt lighter. Not fixed, but steady, like the air after a storm. After dinner, Floyd insisted on paying the bill. "It's my turn to take care of you," he said with a grin. We walked out together into the evening air. The sky had that deep blue shade that comes right before nightfall. At the cars, Nicole turned to me. "Tracy, I know words can't undo what I did. But if it means anything, I've started working with a local shelter that teaches young moms craft skills. Sewing, pottery, things like that. I thought of you. I was quiet for a second. That does mean something. Keep doing it. You'll understand why I love it so much. She nodded, eyes soft. Floyd hugged me before we said goodbye. I'm proud of you, Mom. Really proud. Thank you, sweetheart. I said, I'm proud of you too, for learning. The drive home was peaceful. The highway stretched out under a full moon, and the radio played softly. I didn't feel heavy anymore. I wasn't carrying bitterness, just lessons. When I got home, I made tea and sat in the garage. My latest lamp glowed on the workbench, colors shifting amber amber and blue. I picked up the magazine they'd given me and read the article again. The writer had ended with a quote from me I'd almost forgotten, saying, "Some people see beauty only after someone else names its price. Others see it the moment it's made." I thought about that and smiled. It was true, not just about art, but about people too. I turned off the light in the garage, leaving only the lamp shining in the dark. Its glow reached across the room, soft and steady. That lamp wasn't just the one that started everything. It was the one that reminded me who I was before anyone else's opinion got too loud. Sometimes the hardest part of growing older isn't age. It's remembering your own worth after years of being overlooked. But once you see it, really see it, no one can take that light away again. I took a sip of my tea and whispered to myself, some people need a price tag to see value. Others see it the moment it's made. Then I smiled, knowing I had finally become one of the ones who could see it. It's been a year since that dinner. These days, my life looks different, quieter, fuller, and lighter in all the right ways. Most mornings, I sit on my porch with a cup of coffee and watch the sun spill over the rooftops. Beside me on the small table sits one of my newer lamps, soft green glass with silver grout. It gives off a calm glow, even when it's not plugged in. After the story in Southern Makers, a few local news outlets picked it up. That led to invitations from the community center downtown. They asked if I'd teach a weekly class for seniors who wanted to learn mosaic work. I wasn't sure at first. I'd never taught before, but I said yes. Now, every Tuesday afternoon, a group of women gather around long tables covered with glass and glue. Some are widows, some retired teachers or nurses, a few just lonely and looking for something new. We share stories while we work, stories about family, loss, small triumphs, and all the things women carry quietly. I always tell them, don't worry about perfect lines. Let the cracks show. That's where the light gets through. Watching them build something from broken pieces is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. They remind me of myself a year ago, uncertain, but trying anyway. One of my students, Diane, made a lamp for her granddaughter's wedding. When she brought it to class, her hands shook as she unwrapped it. I'm scared she won't like it, she said. I smiled. She might not, but that won't change the love you built into it. 2 weeks later, she came back beaming. Her granddaughter had cried when she saw it. That's what I've learned through all of this. Sometimes what gets thrown away isn't waste at all. It's just waiting for the right hands to find it. I think back to that day in Floyd's kitchen sometimes, but not with anger anymore. Without that moment, I might never have rediscovered what I was meant to do. I might have kept my talent locked away, making things for empty shelves. Pain has a strange way of clearing out space for purpose. Now, Floyd and Nicole come by once in a while. Nicole even helped design my small website, something simple but elegant. She still cares about aesthetics, but she listens more now. The difference is, this time, she asks questions before giving opinions. Floyd hangs my lamp in his office. When clients compliment it, he always says, "My mom made that." And every time he tells me about it, his voice holds quiet pride. We don't talk about the past much. We don't have to. The lesson already did its work. A few weeks ago, Joanna called to tell me that one of my lamps was selected for a state art exhibit in Houston. It's the first time my work will travel beyond Austin. When she told me, I didn't cry. I just sat there smiling, thinking of Roger and that tiny garage where it all began. I think he'd be proud that his old hammer is still hanging by the workbench, just where he left it. In the evenings when the sun sets, I like to turn off all the main lights in the house and switch on just the lamps I've made. Each one glows in a different color: amber, blue, gold, green. My home feels alive, every wall carrying a bit of memory, a bit of light that once came from loss. If someone had told me a year ago that being dismissed would lead me here, I would have laughed. But now I understand. Sometimes the universe lets you be broken so you can rebuild in a way that fits who you are meant to be. I'm not angry with anyone. I'm grateful. The whole experience reminded me that value doesn't come from how others see you. It comes from what you pour into what you love. So to anyone listening, especially those who have been overlooked or underestimated, let me tell you this: keep making your light. Someone will see it. And even if they don't, shine anyway. Because light never wastes itself. Have you ever had someone dismiss something you made from the heart? Did they ever realize it's worth later? Or did you just move on and shine anyway? I'd love to know your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. And if my story touched you today, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Don't forget to download this wonderful book called 38 Uplifting and Funny Short Stories for Seniors. Easy-to-read tales that bring laughter, memories, and mental stimulation. It's full of heartwarming, simple stories written to bring a smile, stir up memories, and remind us that joy doesn't fade with age. It grows stronger. You'll find it in the pinned comment below. Now, if you liked this story, go ahead and click on the next video appearing on your screen, because in it is a story of betrayal and revolt like you've never seen before, right here on her Kindle Stories.